This may be the last episode of 3 in the Key, but we're still nowhere as disappointing as losing in a last-second Hail Mary. Sorry, ECU. What's up? And like I said, welcome to the series finale of 3 in the Key. I'm your host, Ben Allen. Today, we're going to cut the crap and get straight into the debate early and often with Blake, Brett, and Shane. Also, I will spend the last segment trying to wipe your mind from this show and hopefully give you back a little bit of time you lost. But before we get into all that, let's get you up to date on what you missed. Praise the Lord Jesus. According to ESPN reports, the University of Kansas has a new football coach. David Beatty, the wide receiver coach for Texas A&M, will be taking over for interim coach Clint Bowen. Beatty was the wide receiver coach with the Jayhawks in 2008 and was also the wide receiver and co-offensive coordinator in 2011 with the Jayhawks. While with A&M, he was also the head of recruiting and has helped produce offenses run with the likes of Johnny Manziel and Mike Evans. I'm not going to call it a conspiracy, but sure, Florida State cannot catch a break. The undefeated leader of the ACC will be facing off against number 11 Georgia Tech this Saturday without their stud tailback Carlos Williams. Williams was not cleared to play this week after suffering a concussion last week against Florida. Williams is only 161 yards away from breaking the school's rushing record set by Greg Allen in 1981. Williams has had 728 rushing yards this season. Not even the Seahawks could have predicted this ending. With 5 seconds left, Justin Holman dropped back and threw up a 51-yard prayer over the hands of ECU defenders to deliver the game-winning touchdown. The Hail Mary pass was caught by Brashad Perryman to push the UCF to take a share of the AAC crown with Memphis. UCF led most of the game before ECU went on a 24-0 run. Neither team is ranked, so it won't have a lot of big implications, but hey, everybody loves a Hail Mary. If you listened carefully last night in the darkness under the moon, you could quietly hear Jerry Jones saying, "We're no longer mediocre." And of course, it didn't take much last night to do it. The broken-ribbed Tony Romo and company thwomped the Bears last night 41-28, but in reality, it really wasn't that close as the Cowboys led by 28 in the third quarter. Behind 179 rushing yards for DeMarco Murray, the Cowboys made it look easy. With the win, it is the Cowboys' first non-8-8 season in 3 seasons. The undefeated road Cowboys will have a tough one next week as they will be taking on the 9-3 NFC-leading Philadelphia Eagles. Many people thought we would never see an interview like this again. But for Mike Riley, it's coming again. Riley has been hired as the new coach of Nebraska after the firing of the 9-win Bo Pinelli. The Cornhuskers have decided that they will be bringing on the 5-win coach of Oregon State. And many were very critical of the firing of Pinelli, but Nebraska will be ultimately bringing in a guy who had 11 years of mostly successful football at Oregon State. With having NFL connections being the Chargers' former coach, the hope is that Riley will bring new life to recruiting and consistently to this mediocre Huskers team that has been consistently mediocre. Now it is time for my fantasy tip of the week. Playoffs are starting this week, so if you ever need to put up big points, this is the time. Start your starters, but if you have some injured guys, here are a few free agents to take a look at. Darren Herron of the Colts, who had a strong performance last week against the Redskins with 88 rushing yards and a touchdown, should be another guy to look for this week. Another guy is Ryan Fitzpatrick, who is only owned in 8% of NFL.com fantasy leagues. Fitzpatrick had electric stuff last week with 6 touchdowns. And a guy to be careful with starting this week is Cam Newton. Cam has had a generally disappointing season with the Panthers, but he is facing off against the Saints team that also already has played him this year and only allowed him to complete 10 passes for 151 yards. That's all I have for tips and news, but when we return, we're going to jump right into debate. Stay tuned. Well, welcome back to 3 in the Key. I'm getting more and more sad saying that every single time because I know it's almost over, but you know, guys, it's time for the final debate of the year. With me, we have 2-time champion Blake McFarland. We have 1-time champion Brett Ivy. And we have Shane. We got Shane. Congrats, Shane. Congrats, Shane. We have the new associate sports editor here for the Kansas, so congratulations on that.
Congrats.
Let's cut the crap, guys. Let's get right into it right now here. So I hope everyone's ready for debate. First question, guys. It's a very simple question. Very, very simple question. We've had a great NFL season. It feels like it's been flying by. Over 3/4 of the season's over with, guys. We got a good idea who's been good and who's been bad. Who's going to be the MVP this year?
Well, you sound like Santa Claus right there, just saying by saying who's been good, who's been bad.
Who's getting cold this year?
Yeah, I would say that graphic you just had up, or it is currently up right now, you forgot the MVP, because the MVP should be J.J. Watt. He's the overall best player in the league. He's not going to get it, but he should get it. At the end of the day, Rodgers is going to get it. The Packers have the most electrifying offense. They're definitely my pick to win the Super Bowl. Plus, I mean, everybody loves Aaron Rodgers. He's on like every ad ever, so he'll definitely get some votes.
It's definitely Aaron Rodgers because 20 of the last 28 MVPs have been quarterbacks. 27 of the last 28, and the top 2 have been quarterbacks. There's no way a defense player is going to win it. Although I agree, J.J. Watt has been the best player in the league. He's not going to win it. And Aaron Rodgers, if you're going to go give it to a quarterback, Aaron Rodgers is the guy to give it to. He's been a bad dude this season. He has led the Packers to a lot better than we expected because at the beginning of the year, a lot of people wrote off the Packers. And so if you're going to give it to a quarterback, it's definitely Aaron Rodgers.
And he knows how to spell relax.
That's true. He says relax. I've been thinking about this a lot. I really hate that J.J. Watt is even being considered for MVP. You can't be an MVP on a team that's not even going to make the playoffs.
Well, it's not like it's his fault. He's doing his gig. He's scoring touchdowns as a defensive player. He's getting sacks.
That's true.
I'm sure if he had to, he could play quarterback if they needed him to.
That's true.
He might start calling draft picks after this year. He's kind of running the show down in Houston.
And you can't forget a bad team on one defensive player as well.
That's true. We can't forget DeMarco Murray of the Cowboys, though. Let's think about this. If he ends up rushing for 2,000 yards, which is entirely possible at this point of the season, and then the Cowboys sneak into the playoffs, there's a really good chance that DeMarco Murray could be named the MVP. One of the first running back MVPs I can remember for a long time. If he gets up to that, $2,000, But if he gets up there, it's still like 2003 though. That was a while ago.
Chris Johnson, he ran for 2,000 yards and he got the MVP.
So 2008. Still though, it's been a while. So having it, I think DeMarco Murray, if he gets up to 2,000 and the Cowboys can sneak into the playoffs, which I still think is possible if they get a wild card spot in there, then they're already not going 8-8, so that's already a plus for them. But I think if DeMarco Murray can get up to that level, I think he can be named this year's MVP.
20 of the last 28 MVPs have been quarterbacks. It's going to a quarterback. Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback.
Okay, all right. We'll just have to see what happens.
We like throwing out things that are a little bit different, and a defensive player winning the MVP, it's a little bit different. The winner of this first point, Mr. Blake McFarland.
I'm on board.
Second off.
A running back isn't different, Ben?
A running back is a little bit different, like that
Aaron
number that
Rodgers is
Shane just
different.
threw out there. That's a very good number of why running backs won't win. The Final Four is coming up, guys. I know everyone's been very excited, checking ESPN every Tuesday and finding out who's going to be in the top 4. My question for you guys is, of those 4 teams, are all 4 going to be the ones in right now, or there's going to be another team that slips in, like an Ohio State?
I think if Baylor beats Kansas State, they have a very good chance to jump TCU. Considering they've already beaten TCU and they'll be beating, maybe, a very good team in Kansas State, if they can get that win, they'll be jumping into the top 4. I still think Florida State stays in because they're still undefeated. Sure, they're not necessarily passing the eye test, but they're winning games. They've been undefeated for 2 years now. So I don't understand how they'd be left out. But I think Baylor can jump in there if, in fact, they do beat Kansas State.
But you're trusting the college playoff committee to actually make, a consistent decision, something they haven't done all year. I agree. I think if all these 5 teams win, Baylor deserves to jump TCU because they beat them in a head-to-head. Mm-hmm. But as you've seen with this college playoff committee, they're not very consistent week in and week out to which 4 teams they're going to go with. I think it would be really interesting if Florida State loses and to see, the chaos with that. Because isn't that the greatest part about this whole college playoff thing is the chaos that it's making? Like every week it's giving us to talk about something like this. And I think that in itself is the greatest thing about it.
At the end of the day, I mean, you can, they say these 4 teams are going to make it in right now. Alabama has a tough game. It's really hard for me to say that against Missouri in the SEC championship game. Oregon's already lost to Arizona. They've lost to them 2 times. It'd be the 3rd time in 13 months that they would have lost to Arizona. And if Arizona does that, do they make it in? Yeah. Because that'd be the 2nd time they've beaten Oregon and they won the Pac-12. I don't think a Big 12 team is going to make it in. And I also don't think a Big 12 team deserves to make it in. None of them are really that good. Remind you, if TCU makes it in, Kansas was very close to beating a team that made it into the Final Four. Also, Baylor and TCU played a game where they scored 60 points each, so there's no defense there. Baylor also has lost some games where they have not been playing very well. At the end of the day, I think Ohio State, and this is a big if they can beat Wisconsin by 20 or more points, I think they sneak in there as just that people want to see a Big Ten team in there more than one of these flashy, new age Big 12 teams.
But I think Ohio State, they're already the underdog going into this game with the 3rd-string quarterback, a dude that's 6'5", 250. he's
Big
still
boy.
he's very big.
Cam Newton's a big boy.
Exactly, but he's still unproven. If they can go into this game and beat an awesome Wisconsin team with probably the best running back in the nation, and like come in and actually beat them by, I think, any margin, I think they're in the top 4. And that's, of course, if Baylor doesn't have a good showing against Kansas State as well. But I really like Ohio State in my top 4. I think they can potentially make it to the final if they do get in the top 4. And I don't know. I've just been a really big fan of Ohio State this season and what they've done.
If all these top 6 teams win, the only adjustment should be that Baylor jumps TCU. That's the way it should be. It may not be that way. Personally, I think I'm rooting for a lot of these teams to lose just so there's more chaos.
Exactly. Plus, I trust Condoleezza Rice, so you can't go anything wrong with there, too.
He's going for his first win of the championship belt today. Shane, you get your first point of the day.
There's no belt, though.
And Brett,
Why don't we
there's
have
no
a belt yet?
Yet. Even though it's the last show.
You're not
yet.
going to get us one.
Brett, I know you don't have a point yet, but I know you love this topic coming up here.
So he's gonna
John Lester is a free agent right now, and he has any team that he can imagine to go to. Everyone's talking for this guy. There are at least 5 teams reported to be able to be talking to him right now. My question for you guys is, where's he going to go?
You made that really sound like he's like some like model at like the bars. Like he's got 5 teams that can talk to him.
Like 5 stars.
Someone's slipping their number to him right now.
They can't, like he's like you know what, Yankees, you can't talk to me. I'm like, we're done. At the end of the day, I think he goes back to the Red Sox. You know, they have the money to burn. They need pitching.
Well,
they would have been quite the trade with the A's if they can hold on to Cespedes and Lester. Lester also, I think he likes Boston. I know the Royals talked to him once. I mean, the Royals, they got to talk to him, which is crazy. But he's not going to go there.
Number though. The number.
Their manager, you know, they're neighbors with Lester and Dios are neighbors down in Atlanta. At the end of the day, you go hunting together. You know, if you can kill a bird together, you can win a World Series together. At the end of the day, I would say that John Lester goes back to the Red Sox, and the Red Sox, unfortunately, are one of the best teams in baseball next year.
Well, the Red Sox are going to be one of the best teams in baseball next year, regardless of if they pick up Lester. But the thing with Lester is he's not going back to Boston. As much as it pains me to say, the Dodgers are going to swoop him up last minute just because it's L.A. He's already been there like a couple times this week just visiting with their management. There's something about the Dodgers that just takes Red Sox pitchers and they just hold on to them, like Josh Beckett. Yes, they'll have to deal Zach Greinke more than likely because they will have just a completely stacked, like money-wise, pitching rotation. So they're going to have to deal one of their big money guys. And they've already tried to been shop Greinke around in the first couple days of the winter meetings. So the thing with Lester is, though, he likes being a top rotation guy. He wants to be a number 2 guy. And that's what he's going to be in LA. And he said this before while he was in Boston. He doesn't like that pressure. He's not much of a vocal guy. He doesn't like being at the top. That's why his numbers have slipped. Not necessarily last year. He had a great year last year. But the year before that, with his first time being the number 1 guy, he wasn't very good. He doesn't like the pressure. And so the thing with him is I think he'd rather sit behind Clayton Kershaw and pitch for the Dodgers. And I think with that, they'll have
such a weak argument from him and you is something he wants to do. I mean, that's like saying, like, you know what, like, I'd rather be Scottie Pippen than Michael Jordan because Scottie Pippen didn't really have the pressure of being that good. He could just kind of like do whatever. I mean, I understand like that might be the case with him. That might be the case with him, but he's gonna get paid. He's gonna get paid to be an ace. And guys, I mean,
he's gonna get paid the same amount as money to be a number 2 guy in LA than he would be in Boston.
If he were to make it, like Red Sox guys are very loyal. Like you don't see Big Papi. Sure. I mean, I know there's Jacoby Ellsbury went to the Yankees and so did Joe Damon. But Big Papi, I mean, like he's not leaving. John Lester, one of the best pitchers. At the end of the day, the Red Sox will do whatever it takes. They will spend whatever money. They will name whatever streets. They'll paint the green monster after him. I don't know what they'll do, but they'll do something to keep John Lester.
Right now, if he were to make the decision, I think he goes to the Cubs because they have the most money out there on the table with $138 million. Though the Red Sox at $130, I don't think they're wanting to go up anymore. If the Dodgers really get into play, I think they have more money to spend on him, and they have a lot of officials in that front office that Lester is very familiar with since he was with the Red Sox. If I had to go today, I think he goes to the Cubs because they have the most money on the table.
Basically, we don't know where he's going.
But if the Dodgers are a really serious contender and actually throw some money out there, I think they will throw more money than the Cubs do.
Okay.
Well, with this topic, I know it was painstaking for him to say that he's not going to have his guy back. But with that, Brett, you get your first point on this one.
Can I not get a point for following it?
It was the word.
That was really funny. Although I do have to say, I do think the Cubs will ultimately be the one who throws the most money at him, and I think that's where he'll be going. So, even though I agree with that. This question I wanted to ask, how great was Arian Foster's British accent he did, but instead I figured, I'll go a little bit more local. KU's playing Florida basketball tonight. What's going to happen?
Well, they're going to play for 40 minutes probably.
I think so.
Possibly
dribble the ball.
Possibly a little bit more. And then, no, at the end of the day, Ben, you can write better questions. But at the end of the day, Kansas.
This is the end of the day. This is the end of the series.
What I'm trying to say at this
I
point
lost
in
the
time.
debate by going after Ben's questions, just saying.
You know what?
So.
We'll see what happens. In this game, what I'm looking for with Kansas is they're going to show some backbone. Florida's a little bit of a taller team. Chris Walker's pretty big. And for whatever reason, and I don't really get it from Bill Self's perspective, it's like a revenge game. I know we lost to Florida last year, but nobody was upset that we lost to Florida as a fan base. I'm not a part of the team, so I can't really say we.
Yeah.
But, when you look at this game, Kansas really needs to play well. They need to score, and they need to have a big win at home. And it's not, it could, this could be Florida, this could be really any team. But eventually, when they play a good team at home, it'd be really nice to just smoke them. And they haven't done that in a while. And get the fan base going, get some momentum. I'm looking forward to seeing Kelly Oubre play well in this game. I've been saying it every single game this year. Just wait until he can start. Once he hits his shot, once he starts to get confidence on the court, he's going to be one of our best players, if not our most important player going forward. I'd love to see Frank Mason also get a double-double again.
I think Wayne Sullivan's finally going to have a big game. He's been criticized so much this past week, especially after going 0 for 10 from that last game in Orlando.
It's Michigan State.
Yep. I think he's going to ultimately have probably one of his better games of the season, at least at this point. Even if he shoots like 30% from the floor, I think that's going to be good for him. I think he's going to score in double digits. And obviously, he's been getting.
He has to shoot a lot then.
We'll find out. But either way, I think he's finally gonna step out this game and be kind of that offensive leader that he's kind of been on the defensive side of the floor. I think he's gonna be, kind of the big guy this game because I think Perry's gonna maybe have a little bit of a rougher time in the post, going against two really big players.
But it could be a really good game for Cliff to assert his dominance, his size. Cliff he's an interesting guy when you watch him play. He's kind of like T-Rob when a sophomore. It's like it's really frustrating because it's almost all there, but it's not.
I'm actually expecting a big game out of KU tonight. I'm expecting that big win that Blake was just talking about because, you saw this team grow up over the weekend with Perry Ellis and Frank Mason really coming to their own. It still is a little bit disappointing and concerning that Wayne Sullivan has not been up to par of what we expected from him this year.
Well,
we expected him to be one of the main guys, and he's just struggling right now.
Well, okay, everyone's saying he's struggling.
He's struggling shooting.
Let's back it up.
Yeah.
He is a dominant passer out there, and it's really funny that typically your point guard's supposed to be the best passer on your team. They're the quarterback, they're the guy that dishes everything out. But Wayne Sullivan, the two guard, who's supposed to be the guy who's scoring, is doing that. And all of a sudden Frank Mason, who's 5'10" on a good day, like Ben, and he's getting boards.
5'6".
He's getting boards and he's hitting shots. And so your point guard's having this like scoring, rebounding role, which is what Wayne Sullivan's supposed to be doing. So it's kind of a role reversal, but it works. And kind of at the end of the day, with Kansas, you look at this team. I don't care how it happens. I just want it to happen. I want them to play well. I don't care if they have to press. I don't care if they have to play zone. They just need to play well against a good team.
But you still expected in big games like tonight that Wayne Sullivan and Perry Ellis are your go-to guys coming into this year.
I don't think there is go-to guys.
Yeah, we don't have.
You haven't seen that.
Perry's the most likely guy. But at the end of the day, would you be surprised if Svi had 25 points today? Would you really be that surprised?
Would you ever be surprised about any Kansas team, like your 7th or 8th guy being the leader?
Would you really? But you're just basically saying, like, isn't this the game? If I would have told you going into the day, like, what to expect, Svi's gonna have a career game today.
That's a terrible voice impersonation by me, anyways.
Well, I heard you enough when we called the game together. But at the end of the day, when you look at this, this team is not like last year. Last year it was Wiggins has to play good today. Envy has to play good today. Today, you look at this team. I don't care who's going to play good. Somebody has to, and somebody could.
I think the best Bill Self teams also are kind of based on the sense that there's not a go-to guy. Like you look in 2008, was there a go-to guy? No. Brandon Rush maybe at the beginning of the season.
There was a guy to give the ball at the end of the game, though. Everybody knew Mario was going to hit the big shot.
But you never knew who was going to score the most points that night. You had a great point guard in Russell Robinson. You had a great defensive presence in Mario Chalmers, much like Wayne Sullivan, in my opinion. Two shut-down guys who really can.
Chalmers, muy pequeño.
Exactly. That's true too. I think Sullivan's much more athletic, but.
Bringing Spanish in here.
I'm just, hey, Ben has a very diverse audience. I'm just trying to make everybody happy.
Of 2 people?
But anyway, so
that was actually not even a good one.
God, Shane, you are awful. You are awful. But anyway, so that's what we really like about this team specifically is that You can go to anyone, like you were saying, Blake, on a certain night. That's why I would give the point to you if I was hosting this show.
That's, putting the point up for myself
There you
there.
go. Benjamin, your thoughts?
Wow, I just got hosted by the entire crew there apparently, so Blake gets the point. Well, now I feel very little, and yeah, well, whatever. We're going into the 5th question, guys. It's the last question you will ever hear on this show, so I'm hoping that there's like flames in the background and like crazy people jumping in the air or something. I don't know.
I want that bell.
Shane, you haven't won, so we're giving you a football question.
Oh, okay.
Hold on, advantage on. Mr. Beatty was just hired today to be the next coach of KU football. What'd you think, guys?
Started up,
Right,
Shane.
guys?
It's the last question. You're going with a KU football question. Very interesting, actually. Not choosing to go with KU basketball, but I actually do like the hire. I think it's definitely a very solid hire and has potential to be really good. If you would ask me a couple weeks ago, I thought Bowen deserved the job, but those last 2 games really said, that he did not. I thought it was interesting that they went to a guy that we hadn't even heard that they talked to, basically. All the rumors surrounding were, around Tim Beck and Warner and not about Beatty. There was nothing regarding him. We knew he was going to be a candidate, but we did not know, there was no talk about him talking with him. I think it's a great hire because he's a great recruiter and he's a good, good with the receivers, both things that Kansas really needs to improve on. And he has ties to Texas, which I think is really good, if you get more Texas players with Kansas football. And when he was here, he was pretty good, and he made Desmond Briscoe and Kerry Meyer both all Big 12 receivers. So I really do like this guy.
That's the one thing I like about Beatty, too, is just recruitment. And that's
Can I interject real quick? Can we just say, can I take the category things people said about Turner Gill when he was hired for $500 real quick? This sounds exactly like Turner Gill, but continue on.
Well, the one thing, we haven't had, I don't think, solid recruitment here since, even Mangino, maybe? There was that second year with Charlie Weiss where he brought in, all the JUCO kids.
The dream team.
Yeah, and that worked out.
And his recruiting class wasn't that much better than Turner Gill.
Exactly. And so, it's the thing with Beatty is he's been here before. He kind of knows the way the team works. I believe he'll keep Bowen around as a defensive coordinator.
If Bowen wants to.
That's true, if Bowen wants to. But he's a J-Hawk guy. I think he'll stick around potentially. And I'd really love to see that. I know players are really invested so much into Bowen that I think, if he wants the team to succeed, he'll stick around because I think he's, that Rudolph guy. He wants KU to do well. And so the thing with Beatty is if he can recruit well in the first couple years, I think by that 3rd year, KU will have a solid team. Will they go to a bowl? I don't know. I think they could get potentially a 5-win season, though, which is something that's really important by the time he gets guys to be juniors.
I said this when they hired Charlie Weiss, and I'll say it again and again and again until they finally hire a coach and they do this. Whoever got the job in this situation has to have it for 5 years. And I know if Beatty's awful, if he is Turner Gill bad, if he is
even Charlie Weiss bad.
Charlie Weiss bad, if he's Valentine bad, if he is Terry Allen bad, there has to be some consistency because at the end of the day, which is my keyword today, I don't know why I'm saying that. If they keep changing their coaches like they change their underwear every pretty much every year, no one's ever going to want to take the job. It's just going to become a money grab, which is why Charlie Weiss took it. At the end of the day, it's what you looked at. It's what it looks like. With Beatty, he is the whole thing is he's been a huge recruiter. Head coaches don't recruit that much. Head coaches have restrictions on how much they can recruit. So I'm not impressed with that as much. Mm-hmm. I'm impressed that when you read about him, there's a lot of the D word going out there, discipline, and he's young. He's got energy. I'm not pumped up about it if I'm a KU fan. I'm not mad about it. I am interested to see what he does for assistants, if he brings some energy, some passion into this university. But I'm just not that excited by this hire. It's okay. I think they could have done better. So I'm interested to see who the coordinators are because I think the coach is the CEO, but you're only as good as your offensive and defensive coordinators, and you can see how Charlie Weiss.
Who else would you have brought in though if that was the case? Warner? I honestly don't believe.
I don't know why you didn't take a flyer on Bo Pelini because he was at Nebraska, which is one of the toughest coaching jobs, and he got 9 wins. I don't know why Willie Fritz was the guy who I kept saying I really wanted. He was at St. Houston State. He won with the spread offense, passing the ball. He went to Georgia Southern. He's won there a lot. They were bowl eligible this year. at Georgia Southern, and they beat Florida, and they've taken other big-time schools to the wire, and they were a spread run team. He's done it both ways. I don't know why he couldn't have done that at Kansas.
And
that's the one that slipped away. He's from Kansas City too.
And it sort of felt like this process kind of was rushed a little bit. I know, the job's been open for so long, but it kind of felt like they just kind of jumped into it right as soon as the season ended. And because you didn't talking about it with anybody really.
I think they targeted this week or next week because obviously, if they don't have a coach at this point in time, the official visit window would pass. I think that they wanted to get somebody hired, and I personally think, and I will never know, and I have only heard rumors about this, I think they had somebody else lined up, and that person got cold feet. So, I mean, that's the tough part.
The thing with Beatty, too, as well, I think it's almost a guarantee that A&M's current offensive coordinator is going to Tulsa. I mean, he's a Tulsa guy. That job's open. He's going to go there. So if we didn't, or not we, if KU didn't pick up Beatty right now, I think he was going to take that offensive coordinator job at A&M.
So you're saying you would rather be the offensive coordinator at Texas A&M than the head coach of a Division I football team? Mind you, the worst team
SEC over.
Mind you, the worst team in the Power 5 conferences, but still,
he'd be a head candidate in like 3 years.
But these guys have egos. Yeah. He can still be a hot candidate in Kansas agrees. If he goes out next year and wins 4 games, 6 games, I guarantee you he won't be the Kansas coach after that. We'll have the same talk again when Ben's graduated from college. If he graduates.
Right, yeah. It'll take another 4 to 5 years, but we'll find out. JK, love you, Ben. You look lovely today.
I do agree that I think it deserves, whoever it is, Beatty, he deserves 4 or 5 years. It takes time, because this team is going to be really bad in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
I mean, the talent is not going to be there.
Not a great recruiting.
But when you look at the staff, you have to keep going just because it would look pretty bad as a university. And he's a good defensive coordinator.
And he's a coach together already, too.
He's proven well. You have to keep Eric Kissel in some capacity because he's a big-time recruiter. He brought Nigel King in. Nigel King can transfer this year if he wants to. So if Kissel goes to USC or some other Pac-12 school, if you lose your best wide receiver, who's going to be a second-round draft pick in the NFL next year, in the next 2 years, the 2016 NFL draft, then you're even worse off. So you have to keep. I think there's a couple guys you have to keep, and then Reggie Mitchell would be a guy you have to keep. So
I think
guys,
both out too.
We got to close out the debate here, guys. The winner of the 2 points, meaning they are the winner of the last debate of 3 in the Key ever, is the only person who didn't insult me that last time who got the point in the back. They decided this. Shane Jackson, you get your first win. 3 in the Key. Your first win.
Congratulations.
It's just not special anymore.
It wouldn't be a special to you, Blake. We all know that.
No,
Thank you guys for watching the debate. We will be right back with one final send-off. Welcome back to 3 in the Key. Kind of sad to say, I think this will be the last time I say it, and when I say I think, it will be. It's been a great year of shows. I've had so many times with, so many great people, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. I really could not have had this show if it were not for the great people around me. The show would be nothing if it weren't for my great directors, Danny, Laura, and Abby. And Abby I have to do a special thanks to, because she's the only one in the entire staff who's been here since day one. She's a truly great friend, and she's a truly great director. To my staff over the last 2 semesters, you all have worked very hard to make the show look and sound good. And to all the guests, Skype guests, and athletes, it really would be nothing without you guys. I am really not that interesting. To my girlfriend Amy for always coming here and supporting me, I would not be able to do this without anything that you've done, and probably wouldn't be able to do anything without you. Ultimately, I have to thank Cal Butcher, our head of Media Crossroads, for letting a crazy guy with an idea host a show and keep this place running like no other. Cal does an amazing job day in and day out. To everyone who has watched this show, I love you guys, and I look forward to next semester for future endeavors wherever I may be and wherever I may be hosting. So for the final time, it's been a blessing, guys, and for one last time, this has been 3 in the Key. Good luck with finals.